Hi, Erica. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for coming on. It's a pleasure to have you. Um, I love what you do. I just love when people help other people get stronger and healthier and intertwine all sorts of different um, modalities so that people can kind of be in a better place. And so, thanks for taking the time to come on today.
Oh, you're welcome, Holly. Thanks for having me.
For those of you listening, Erica is, well, I guess you're most known for your boot camp work. So you kind of deal with the aspect of yoga in more of a mindfulness and a meditation area, and you weave it in with nutrition and plant based and helping people learn how to eat the correct foods to move their body to then sync their mind. So it's so cool to have you on. And I think, and also you're connected to John Joseph, which I was so happy to have him on, and lots of people have been so excited. So you're good people.
Oh, thank you.
It's really nice to be able to talk to you. Uh, well, I guess we'll just kind of get started a little bit with just what you're currently doing during COVID as far as helping people through nutrition and your planning and the programs that you're doing, and then we'll kind of weave into how you got plant based and vegan, and where you're moving towards with the meditation
Yeah.
training that you're going towards. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Okay. I am a personal trainer, first and foremost, been certified since 2007. My background's in martial arts training. I've been training since 1992. And Karate, jujitsu, judo, aikijitsu, weapons. I've Tai Chi. I've dabbled uh, in a lot. So that led me to be a personal trainer, but that wasn't enough. I felt like I wasn't syncing my what my true values were with my business. So in 2012, I did my certification through Cornell for being a plant-based nutritionist.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's a
So
good program.
it is a fantastic program. I highly recommend anybody taking it. Even if you aren't a nutrition coach, it's going to give you confidence and tools that you'll use for the rest of your life. So, that being said, once I had that certification, I had the confidence to then tell my clients, okay, this is my nutritional cornerstone. And if you want to eat this way, I'm going to show you how. And if you don't, that's fine. Go to somebody else. You know what I mean? Like I had to like draw that line in the sand.
Yeah, and that's hard to do.
It
I think for a
went,
lot of people. I mean, maybe it's
it
not, but
was, but once I did it, it just clarified everything.
yeah, it's
It really
freeing.
set the path, and it was just like what any business coach says. You have to find your niche, and like that's been my niche for the past 8 years specifically. So that being said, I rebranded myself as Plant Power Boot Camp. And I have a signature program that I run, which is called the VeganFit Challenge. And it's a 6 week program that combines strength training, vegan nutrition 101 from beginning to end. I have like a whole worksheet system that I give people. We do all their macros. They leave knowing how to do everything themselves. But I also add in the element of mindfulness and meditation. It's pretty easy to weave it in, and that's what people want more than anything. So I train my clients to sit in once a week. We have a group class where we sit in meditation before we work out. We sit in meditation after we work out, and then we do bullet point journaling for our goal setting right after meditation practice. And I also teach people how to not only be mindful around their fitness, but around their food. So I weave the mindfulness into their daily eating by, uh, teaching people to be aware of their breath when they feel like their impulse control is really low and they might want to like overeat or, whatever the
Yeah.
trigger is with food. And there are a wide variety of them. So that's what I do. And I've been doing it for a while. Um, I launched the VeganFit challenge a couple of years ago, and it's been in development ever since. So pretty much when March hit, I was about to launch my March spring session, like literally right when COVID hit.
Oh,
I was already like, I had the marketing done, it was ready to roll out. And I kind of paused thinking like, should I really roll this out right now? It seems like we're about to be in a crazy crisis. And I just did it anyways. And it's, the train has left the station and we've been smooth sailing from March till now. And obviously, because gyms are closed and people are home, um, I've I've done really well, and I've had a lot of clients have a lot of success. So in some ways, I've been really fortunate this year.
yeah. I mean, I think people need that for a variety of reasons. Like, I don't have to explain to you why eating whole food, plant-based foods is going to be, better for your mind and your body. And, also just the way that we're navigating in coronavirus right now, because it's hard. There is a layer of stress and pressure that is different for everybody as well. Like, my experience with COVID is going to be different than yours. And there's so many just different ways that we're all impacted. But regardless, we're impacted one way or another. And, I think when people can, or at least myself, I should speak for myself, it's like, I looked at that as like, I can either get into a corner and crumble and like rock back and forth in the fetal position right now and just like feed that energy of anxiety and stress that is natural to my state of being, or I could go, set some other goals
Right.
and just do things. And that's what I did. I was like, I'm going to learn how to trail run. I'm going to be that person. Like, so not that person, but I'm going to try to be that person and just make, shift my own way of thinking. And it's helped because otherwise you're just being bombarded with messages. And I think that is the power of food and the power of meditation, is that it allows us space. Learning how to meditate or just even work within mindfulness, no matter if you're doing a yoga, whatever practice, stretching, whatever, or just channeling that in a different way as far as your interaction with other people, how you can then use the tools of learning how to heal your own body so that you can become more productive and more of service to other people. So I think what you're doing is really important, and people need it. There's so many people that have just kind of like gone the other side and fed into drinking too much and eating junk food. And I was certainly eating, some junk that I normally don't eat at the beginning. And just, I had to check myself and go,
You
okay,
reel
what?
it in. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, okay, this was fine for a couple weeks, but
It's
it's not.
kind of like, like everyone's COVID, like you said, everyone's COVID situation is different. And I think COVID aside, like, I don't really like to talk about like in the context of COVID because I'm just like, this could be in the context of life for anybody. Like, what if you had unexpected death in the family? What if you unexpectedly lost your job? Like, things could be like, what if we
Yeah.
had the perfect president right now? What if everything, like the general health of our society was great? But what if, like, you as an individual, your life was falling apart versus like society as a collective?
Right.
You still have to have the same exact tools in your toolbox to navigate it. So I always say, like, right now, I'm just like, COVID aside, like, you need to be doing your fitness training, you need to be on point with your nutrition, and you need to have some sort of mindfulness meditation practice.
Yeah.
Has it been brought to the surface more because of COVID that people are realizing that? Yeah. So that's a good thing in a weird way.
Right. Right. Although they have to completely go at it differently.
Right.
Like, you just can't have the same experience even if you do have classes available where you are.
Yeah. I mean, like, are you
Right.
gonna, can you go into a spin class right now? No. So
Right.
that's
Yeah. And it's different where, yeah, because you're in the city. So we're in Connecticut. So we have like, they've relaxed us a little bit more.
Oh, okay.
Um, but still, it's very different.
It is
And
very.
most people won't go. And
Are yoga studios open?
yeah, I'm teaching.
Oh,
Like,
great.
yeah. But it's, you know, I, every week I kind of attack it a little bit differently because, there is the spacing.
Right.
I'm in a hot yoga studio.
Okay.
Um, you know, and thankfully my classes are not huge.
Yeah.
It's like even at max capacity at whatever 6 feet apart, like I'd rather people being 12 feet apart at least. Like, so they come in and they're like taking the edges, and filling themselves in, and that's good. But you still get that one or two people who just like kind of miss the memo of, you know, keeping 6 feet distance. And it's like when you're walking forwards and I'm walking backwards, like that's your cue to like, give some more space. So you have to be a little careful. Plus I have a 17-year-old and I feel like those kids have a little bit of a different bubble and there is a level of exposure. So you have to be careful, but you have to like pull from every other angle, I think,
Yeah.
like to just kind of keep yourself as healthy as
Well,
possible.
that's great that you're actually getting in the studio. I'm sure
Yeah.
that the students that you have right now have a newfound appreciation for that.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the only times other than online that you can see somebody's face.
Right.
You're like, oh my gosh, is that your face? I haven't seen it. Um, but yeah, it is nice and it will change. But I think having those tools, I'm kind of a loner when I work out anyway. So for me, having those kind of online programs are extremely helpful.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. So, yep, Plant Power Boot Camp Vegan Fit Challenge. If you're curious, and like people always say, "Oh, I'm not fit enough to like start a boot camp," and I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh gosh." Okay, first of all, I literally have people in my boot camp who haven't exercised in years. And I also have people in the boot camp who are like training for 50Ks. I have men, I have women, people of all ages. I'm like, it, I'm like, you could come into this program that I teach just purely for the nutrition part,
Yeah.
and you would still walk away with an incredible amount of like education and learning and recipe ideas and not feeling so lost about where to start with like your vegan meal planning. So that's been really good. And but then, for people that are there just for the nutrition part, they can't help but want to join in the workouts because they see everybody else doing it and they see everybody else posting like how good they feel after they moved their body, and then they're like, maybe I should move my body too, and then then they're on the workout train. But I specifically teach strength training. That's my favorite niche for
Yeah.
as far as fitness goes. So John, as you know, is like the endurance training like fanatic with his
Right. Right.
constant iron need to do an Ironman. Um, and I'm like the give me a 45-minute workout with like really hard weights and high intensity so I can go about the rest of my day.
Yeah.
So that's where we're a little different. He wants to ride his bike for 4 hours, and I am thinking about the list of things to do in my head, and I don't want to ride my bike for 4 hours.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, just something that you see with a lot of classes, especially yoga, is like the yoga classes used to be an hour and a half,
Yeah.
and that's like been shortened to an hour at most studios. So I think having that ability to get your full workout in and what you need to do in 45 minutes is really helpful for, most people. Like,
Yeah, and you can get a really amazing workout in just 45 minutes. Like with meditation training, like if you tell somebody that, oh, okay, you're gonna start a meditation program, so I need you to sit in meditation for an hour every day. They're not gonna do it.
yeah,
So you got to trick them. You got to tell them, okay, just sit in meditation for 10 minutes.
right.
Yeah, that feels. Sit with that.
Well, and I think people don't understand like what's supposed to happen, because the first thing at least I hear is like, well, I can't quiet my mind, and I tell people, like, you're not going to sit in lotus and all of a sudden start floating off the ground and, and seeing like Buddha's in front of you. It's not going to happen. You're just, you know, allow yourself to allow the mind to just kind of settle a little bit. That's all you
Right.
have to do. And even if you're thinking of 1,000 things, just pay attention to what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
Just notice it and
Right.
just allow it to decompress. But I think, you know, sometimes people think, oh, well, I can't quiet my mind, so I shouldn't start doing it. And it's crazy, because I wonder if it applies to fitness as well. But when I meditate, like if you're having a really crazy day, if you take that extra 10 minutes or even 5 minutes, and you sit and you meditate, you're able to get through what you need to do a lot easier. And I
Yeah.
think it,
It
it buys
definitely
you more time.
it increases your coping strategy, coping skills
Yeah.
greatly as far as stress responders go, and what you're able to let go and not get hooked on.
Yeah.
So, the name of your podcast is Yoga is Vegan. What
Mhm.
made you decide that name?
That's so funny you asked that. It was in a meditation.
Oh,
Like it's like a weird story, because I had done I'd done my couple of teacher trainings, and I knew I wanted to combine something with yoga and vegan. Uh, and I did a training with Victoria Moran from Main Street Vegan.
oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Do
Victoria's
you know
great.
her, right?
Of
She's,
course.
oh,
Yeah.
she's such a good
Such a
person.
special soul.
Yeah, right? She's one of my favorite people
Oh,
in the whole wide world.
yeah.
Like she anyway, um it was after doing her program that I was kind of in the midst of also doing meditation, every day. And I was sitting on my bed and just meditating. There was no purpose or anything. And I had my laptop close to me because I had to work on something. And all of a sudden, it just came like yogaisvegan.com. Uh, okay. All right. So I just stopped the meditation and I looked. And I was like, oh, it's available. I'm just going to take all of it right now. I just
Yeah.
did it. And then I figured out, okay, well, what's it going to be about? And it's not just going to be about me. It's going to be about everybody. It's about the collective, because, it's like my story's great and your story's great, but everybody's story to all together, I think it has greater power.
Mm.
And I think everybody understands what yoga feels like and looks like to them is different than one set guru saying, it's got to be this way. So
Mhm.
that's kind of how it came to be. But it was through meditation, ironically.
Right. So I was thinking about the phrase yoga is vegan, and the first thing that came into my head is someone, for example, who has been a long time yogi and who's not vegan.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I always struggle with this, but as my philosophical self, I try and like let it go because everyone's on a different path.
Right.
Um, I find it so fascinating. And it's just like fascinating is the most non-judgmental word I could possibly use.
Right, right, right.
People will do like be a yoga teacher and have gone through the training and the asanas and reading, the sacred text, and then they eat a burger. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? And then they have a dog, and
Right.
I'm just like, where's the disconnect?
Well,
Because like
okay. Yeah.
like when I went, from my martial arts training led to meditation, led to me learning about Buddhism at very young age, 12, 13, 14 years old. I was on that train,
Right.
and no, not all Buddhists are vegan. I learned that, but there was such an overwhelming of me learning about compassion and the concept of all beings. And then I was exposed to, a PETA video, and all of a sudden it all just made sense. And I'm just like, it just, the paths totally were one.
Right.
And this is like the early 90s. So like there weren't cell phones in our pockets with like,
Yeah, it was
oh,
hard to find that.
it was hard to find like a PETA video. Like I was just in the right place at the right time. But
I
I'm
know.
to this day, I still struggle with it. So, any advice?
Well, I mean, here's the deal.
I guess, I guess I'm interviewing you. I'm asking
I
you.
know, I know. I'm like, oh, this is a really
Like,
easy interview today. I'll just
like
answer
if
your
you want to
questions.
do yeah, if you're going to do a podcast called Yoga is Vegan,
Yeah, yeah,
this is
yeah,
the
yeah.
heart of it. Like I still struggle with like
Okay.
how to
Think of
work through this with,
think of yoga and think of veganism. Think of
yeah,
that journey as the exact same one, right? Because we're ultimately going to the same place.
right.
Okay. So, as a vegan, we we realize, like, we understand, we learn this truth, and then you're like, oh my god, I'm going to tell you this truth to everybody, and then just it falls on, you know, it falls dead. Like, people don't pick it up.
Right.
They're not ready. So you happen to come into the door, like you were already a, I don't know, a soul, a being on a path, even from a young age. I have moments where I look back where I wasn't vegan, I wasn't a yogi, but it made sense as to where I am now.
Yeah.
But you were reading about Buddhism, and you were thinking about what's the difference,
Yeah.
and you had an open mind to that. But a lot of people who get into yoga, like
Yeah.
a yoga teacher training, there's almost a disservice, although I'm still certified in it with Yoga Alliance, because there is no governing agency that's really looking at this ancient practice and
Right.
saying, are we really giving this message? It's been broken up to, like, are they safe? Is there, are you including information so people don't get hurt? Like that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. And so all these trainings are open to different interpretations. Like, you give a book to two people, they're going to get something different from it.
Yeah.
And so my first teacher training, my 200-hour teacher training, was just this, a smorgasbord of, like, kind of thoughts. And the books that we read were not, we had the Yoga Sutras. Those are,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
The Yoga
small.
Sutras of Panjali. Yeah.
Right.
Actually, I have it sitting right. I have it right here.
But yeah. And it's just like, I remember my
Like
first
if you read
training.
this, like you read this, if you're really reading this,
Yeah.
like I'm just like,
I
how
think
about let's go for some lentils?
right. I agree with you. I think they're at my it's celebrations for there are yoga retreats where they
Yeah.
have, like, food retreats with wine and chicken and all this kind of stuff, and it's like, no. For me, I won't go to those. I have teachers I love
Yeah.
who will do these retreats, and I
Yeah.
will not go to them
Yeah.
because I love them for other reasons.
Yeah.
But I think that disconnect comes because humans are humans. And we were told during our teacher training for 200 hours that ahimsa meant, because I was in LA, it was like, it's it's like, don't get involved with road rage on your way to class. Like, don't flip the guy, you know,
Yeah.
flip him off next to you, which probably still happens. Like, it just happens. I drive in New York, I feel at home. I'm like, ha, they're too docile in Connecticut. But this whole idea of not extending it to other beings, they don't get it. And I think they're just under that Maya, right? We're all under this disillusionment, and it takes time. And I don't want to say yoga is vegan, so if you don't practice, if you're not a vegan, don't do yoga, because I wasn't vegan when I started doing yoga.
Right.
Like, to me, it's like when you keep getting deeper, 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 deeper into that practice, then you understand that at its core it is a practice of non-harm towards other beings, first and
Right.
foremost.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. But I can understand how people can get confused along the way for a variety of reasons, just under the same reason why they don't go vegan,
Yeah.
and still try to have that umbrella of compassion. But what I work on the most is, like, drawing a line, which I clearly draw a line, but still keeping open arms for people.
Right.
Like, it's tricky.
It is tricky.
It's really hard.
It's tricky.
But I think not participating and hurting others and hurting the
Right.
planet and hurting everything else is something that should be taught, that it
Yeah.
supersedes the rest of it, which it is not in many, not all. There are lots of great programs, but there are more generic programs where you just see people coming in, they do the training, they, make
I
an
mean, it's only tricky
is.
because we live in an age and we live in a society where we pander to the one person in the room who doesn't want to do it.
I think we've been taught to. I think we've
We've
been
been
bullied.
taught to do that.
Yep.
And in other ages and in other societies, it's it's not that way. Like I lived in Japan. Like people are like, oh, in Japan, everybody conforms, conformity. In America, we get to choose our own thing, but individuality. And I'm like, when you live in a society where it's not conformity, it's something different. Like when you're there and you're in it, you don't feel like you've conformed. You feel like you're moving for the greater good. And so it's interesting because it just makes me sad. It
Yeah.
makes me sad because, do I want to step on people's toes? But no, but do I have to draw a line in the sand? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's that people need to start reading a little bit more and
Yeah,
worrying a little bit less about, is my foot behind my head? Did I hold this pose correctly? Did I, cuz people get stuck in the physical
right.
in yoga. That, I mean, that's the biggest lure, I think, or at least it was for me. It's like I want to be able to just kind of move this way. That's how I got into it. I loved it. I love to play. I love to handstand. I love all that kind of stuff. But that's not the yoga.
Right. It's the
Not
same thing with martial arts. Like people go to martial arts and like, oh, I want to do that kata. It's going to look cool. Or I
yeah.
want to do this tournament and I'm going to win the trophy or whatever. And like I do martial arts, it's totally for the mind training. Like that's what it's all about. It's like the mindset training, like in conjunction with the movement. And, at the end of the day, like you've learned how to defend yourself if you followed it correctly, which is a great,
It's a plus.
it's a great plus.
Yeah. But how do you get people to be real students? Do you know what I mean? Like how do you
You have
find
to, well, it starts with having a real teacher.
right.
That's the thing, is that like you're only as good as your teacher is, your sensei or your guru, your yoga guru.
Right.
And I think that's why, I'm a martial artist and you're a yogi, but we can have the same exact conversation.
Right. Except you're
So,
going to kick my ass.
so sure, like,
I'm just kidding.
like if you want to walk into like a McDojo and say you're training in karate,
Yeah.
like great. It's probably gonna like feed your whatever path your soul is on. But if you really want to go deeper, you have to find a real martial arts school. And they're probably a little secret and they're probably a little harder to find. And the sensei probably actually has a real job during the day because he doesn't really want to like have to run his martial arts school based on like money and profit. He wants to
Right.
teach. And I think that's how it is in the yoga world too. Like, if you want to go to yoga for everybody, I just made that up. It probably
There
exists.
is a yoga for everybody.
I just made it up. Sorry. I'm sorry.
No, 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 no. That's okay.
And like you're gonna get the McDojo version of like yoga, but
Right.
there's a deeper version of yoga.
Yeah. Although ironically, the yoga for everybody there's one in Connecticut named that, and it's all Kundalini, which is really funny.
Oh, great.
Yeah, no, no, no. It's actually a good place. So
Yeah, no,
it was not
Kundalini
that
yoga.
was not a dig on that. And it's right
Yeah,
next door to like well, they're almost vegan. They've got honey. They're a raw food like vegetarian place. So not to not,
yeah.
not to come down on them, but yeah. And I think it is hard to kind of go counter. It's just kind of counter marketing
I'm
and.
checking on my butternut squash.
Oh,
I'm actually making food right now.
yeah. All right. So all right, we totally pivoted the conversation, but does that help at all? Like you just have
No,
to.
it helped me talk it out for sure. Like I had to talk it out because it's a conversation I have a lot with my real serious yogi friends
Yeah.
over the years, and I still struggle with it a little bit because I'm lucky. Like I set up, like you teach yoga, so you have like all sorts of people coming into like your yoga studio. They're not vegan or vegetarian at
Right.
all. But
Right.
I set up my business as Plant Power Boot Camp. I'm like, I'm skipping that phase. You're coming to me because you
Yeah.
already decided that you want to be vegan or you are a long time vegan. I don't have to have the conversation at all with you
Right.
about why you should be. Like you've already done that. Like that stuff's already done. So
Yeah.
I have the students that are already ready to take the next step with me.
Yeah.
So
I'm just gonna keep collecting them. From the outside. But it's like when I teach yoga to the masses, especially in Connecticut, which is a weird place, I say from the perspective of being somebody from Los Angeles, so I think it's weird out here. Uh,
yes.
I went out with my husband and I took our dogs for a hike this morning, and there was this woman, and he was laughing. He goes, "That woman's got a Weston resting face." It's just like there's this look that just happens, and I said, if that happens to me, we just have to leave. You understand that, right? I was
It's a
like,
New England thing. Like, listen, I lived in Santa Barbara for years.
uh,
But I'm from like Massachusetts. So I have like at the core, I'm like this New England girl. But when I lived in California, I was
yeah,
just like, oh, I totally understand now why when everybody comes to New England, they think that we're all just so mean and grumpy and unapproachable.
uh, well, yes, but,
Because we look that way a lot of the time. But it's
right.
really just because it's not sunny and warm all the time.
I
Like
guess so.
it might just be a little cold.
Maybe I don't know. I'm living here. I'm cold. I just got my hat on, but I don't know. No, no, no. So okay, the nutrition side of the program.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about like so what how does the food tie in with becoming more mindful, and what foods are you kind of what are you teaching?
Um, so basically, specifically what I teach is I teach people how to calculate their basal metabolic rate, so their BMR. Then I teach them how to calculate their total daily energy expenditure based on their physical activity level. And once they have those numbers, it equates to how many calories they should be eating on a high output day versus a low energy day.
Yeah.
And then that really starts them on the path to understanding what food choices they need to make for them versus other nutrition coaches who just put all their clients on like a 1200 calorie diet because they're going to immediately lose weight. I'm like, yeah, no kidding, because I still haven't come across like any client whose BMR is lower than 1200. So of course they're going to lose weight, but that's
Right.
dumb because I have people in my group who need to be eating like 3,500 calories a day because they're, like on like a whole nother level. So I teach people how to do the numbers so then they can modify it specifically to their needs. So basically what happens after they do those basic calculations, I teach them how to do their macro calculations. So I teach them how to calculate their protein, their carbohydrates, and their fat intake based on the RDA guidelines. So no one's in like a high protein, low carb zone. Everyone is always, when I teach, is always going to be within the RDA guidelines. So immediately there's no like diet catch. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Like
Yes.
there's no low carb, there's no high fat, low carb, there's no low carb, high fat. Like, did I just say the same
Low
thing?
fat.
You know what I mean?
Right.
There's
Right.
no high protein, low carb. Like it's all evenly distributed
Yeah.
because that's a healthy fucking diet. It's all about balance.
Yeah.
because it's about what happens in the long-term lifestyle. You can't maintain these crazy macro diets that are
No,
out,
they're too
bad diets that
right.
are out there. Are you going to get a result? Sure. Could I like do a 2-week boot camp with some fucking crazy macro like thing and have like a bunch of people get amazing results and probably like get way more money? Sure. But they're all going to gain it back the minute that they try and like just go back to eating quote unquote normal.
Right.
So I don't waste my time with that because that's just like, that's being a cheater, really. Sorry if I sound harsh to other people that do that, but whatever. So basically that's what I teach. And then the very, very end of it, I teach this little mindfulness meditation practice. And it stems from Buddhist meditation practice with food, where you have a plate, right? And you have like 12 different types of food on that plate and tiny, tiny little amounts. You'd have like a raisin, like a piece of chocolate, a piece of celery, a piece of strawberry, and you want a piece of lemon. Like you want sweet, sour, savory, like really intense spectrum of the palate, right?
Yeah.
And you do this exercise blindfolded. You have to have somebody else like make the plate for you, but you can't know what's on the plate,
Right.
right? So you sit in meditation, right? And then you eat, and then you are very aware of your senses, because meditation is all about really calming the five senses.
Yeah.
The one that's the hardest to actually tame, according to a lot of the Vedic yoga teachings, is the our taste.
Yeah.
Our taste is our taste and our drive for wanting to eat this or wanting to eat that is greater than wanting to smell this or smell that, or it's even greater than wanting to hear this or that, or see this
Right.
or that, or feel this or that. I mean, just to be honest with you, how many people would rather have like this giant amazing pizza rather than like good sex? I mean, I definitely know a lot of people would rather have pizza than sex, which is crazy, but it's true.
Right. Right.
Like, so not to go there, but I just said it. Like, so taming the taste buds is like the hardest of the five senses to control. So no wonder in this day and age where we have all of our food, our frankenfoods are made to the extreme to make those palate choices even more desirable. You just have something really, really sweet like these cupcakes, or you have something really, really like salty like these awesome chips. Like, of course, you're constantly in this like inner battle over
Yeah.
it. So this process of like doing this exercise that I have people do is fantastic because they don't see what's on the plate, and they have to sit in meditation for quite a while in between each little bite of food that they get, and they have to really sit and process what the feelings that get brought up surrounding the food, guessing what food it is,
Yeah.
um, and learning to take a bite and to sit and to wait for the next bite.
Yeah.
So
That's
that's what I
beautiful.
do. It's a
That's
lot
really
of
cool.
fun. Yeah. I like to think it helps some people. So far, I've gotten really great feedback on it.
Yeah, I think it's important to learn. I mean, it's literally teaching people to be mindful about their eating practice. Mm.
Yes, it really does. So it definitely helps. And then we talk a lot in the group about being in situations where if you're vegan but a lot of people aren't, and how you handle that. So that's also helpful too.
Right. Just kind of tools. So that sounds amazing. We didn't get into your vegan story. Um,
Oh,
but
my vegan story. It's not that. I mean, it's to make a long story short.
okay, yeah.
I grew up. I'm 41. I grew up in Massachusetts. I started going to the like punk rock shows when I was like 14, 15 years old, and sort of what came along in that scene was fantastic awareness about human rights and animal rights.
Yeah.
Animal rights, that's where I was exposed to the concept of animal rights. And it was 1994, 95,
Okay.
96. Um, they were hardcore about their animal rights. And I remember just being at a show, and there was always a booth set up with lots of pamphlets, information, how to go vegan, what to eat, uh, boycott McDonald's, all this like awareness. And
Yeah.
you're already at an age that's very formative anyways, and you're already at a punk rock show because you're feeling angst and you want to go against the grain anyways. So you
Right.
see these people doing it and you're just like,
It's perfect.
oh shit, you know. But then uh I saw a PETA video of the inside of a slaughterhouse, and I saw a cow being slaughtered, and what was happening on the slaughterhouse floor. And I couldn't eat for like 2 days. I almost like puked, and I was like distraught.
Yeah.
I was just like, I couldn't think of anything else except for what I had seen. And the footage was so raw and so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And I just, at that point, I was like, that I'm done. Like I went home to make a I went home. My mom was like, "What the fuck? You don't even like to eat vegetables." And I was like, "I'll figure it out."
Yeah.
And because I was the kid that like didn't like to eat vegetables,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like straight up. I'm in like, maybe I liked cucumbers or peppers from the garden or this or that, but I
Right.
wasn't sitting down eating salads.
Yeah.
I didn't want to eat my peas. And then it all changed, and I was like, "Yeah, we're gonna do this." So
Oh,
that's what set me on the path.
so cool. And it's so, I love that you draw the line in the sand, like, and just kind of go from there. I think there's something really strong about that. And I respect it very much. And I love what you're doing. And I love that you're helping people get strong. And your program sounds amazing.
Yeah,
So
thank you so much.
thank you so much for coming on. And how can everybody find you? What's the best
Uh,
place?
okay. My website is plantpowerbootcamp.com. So if you're interested in any of my online training courses, you can go there. On Instagram, that's Erika, Erika dot Plant Power Bootcamp. And yeah, you'll see pictures of my food that I like to cook, and me and Stormy Bear, pictures of John. Um, yeah, I just, that's how people can find me.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you again. It's so great to have you on.
Thank you so much. Bye.